Hi, this is John Rowell for the Rowell Report. Today is Saturday, December 6, 2025, and I'm just going to this topic of war crimes, legalizing war crimes, and how our military-industrial complex is helping to set the tone for these questions. The Palantir CEO, Alex Karp, spoke about supporting a constitutional amendment, I guess, that would legalize war crimes, that would allow the U.S. military maximum lethality without any safety on. They could conduct that anywhere at any time for any reason. There wouldn't need to be any concern for morals or ethics. So his point is that the U.S. got to where it is now, or he says the rise of the West was not made possible by the superiority of its ideas or values or religion, but rather by its superiority in applying organized violence. Well, in a certain sense, he's right. So how does that imply that we need to make a constitutional amendment to allow for war crimes? In any case, he believes that would be good for business, of course, because the more lethal weapons are needed, the more money he stands to make. So I just have a question about this whole war crimes topic. I think since World War II, the United States has engaged in more and more attacks on civilians, or has allowed attacks on civilians by allies. So all we have to do is look at some instances of that. The first one I want to look at is the Mai Lai Massacre in Vietnam. So more than 500 Vietnamese civilians were killed by murder-hungry or trigger-happy U.S. soldiers. Only one person was convicted. He was given 3.5 years of house arrest, so never sat in a jail cell. And I guess President Nixon intervened so that he would never go to jail. So this sets the tone, I think, for me more than anything else, that U.S. soldiers are basically immune from prosecution within the mentality of the U.S. government. In a certain sense, it is already a fact that the U.S. government will not prosecute soldiers for murder, but they will when they release secrets of the military, like in the WikiLeaks case and other cases where soldiers have gone to the press or has somehow got information from one of the military servers and then released it to some source who had put it on the internet. And those soldiers were treated very harshly, given solitary confinement and given all sorts of cruel and unusual punishment. But of course, if you're a soldier and you murder someone while carrying out your duty, you will not be punished. At least that's what the Mai Lai Massacre tells me. And this continues on in the military. We have the incident in the Iraq War in July of 2007. A U.S. helicopter fired on some members of the media, and one cameraman picked up the camera, and the helicopter said that it was a rocket launcher, a pipe to launch a rocket at the helicopter, so it was kind of in self-defense. But anyway, the information about this attack on the media crew was provided by a soldier to WikiLeaks in 2010, so that was 3 years after. And so you could see in the video that these individuals were not terrorists. They were not carrying out terrorist activity. They were simply blown away by a kill squad flying in a helicopter. And then they brought over a vehicle to try to take the wounded to the hospital, and they were attacked. So none of those involved were ever punished as far as public information goes. And the soldier who released that information to WikiLeaks was later punished with solitary confinement, cruel and unusual punishment. So another war crime. Then we have the drone strikes in Pakistan, Yemen, Somalia, Afghanistan during the Obama presidency, and his drone crew was going wild. They were attacking funeral processions and wedding processions. They would kill men, women, children, elderly, and there wasn't any accountability for any of these attacks. They always said, well, there was a bad guy there, or at least we thought so, so that justified killing women and children. So you can see that the idea of war crimes or committing war crimes on civilians is not new, and it essentially is an accepted practice in the U.S. military. I wouldn't think that you would need to create a constitutional amendment if it's already an accepted practice, and these soldiers will never be prosecuted. We have this final incident I want to bring to your attention. This is from Democracy Now! Alejandro, the Colombian fisherman who was killed in the U.S. strike, U.S. boat strike. So this family is filing a claim against the United States. Again, making it pretty clear that this was not a trafficker of drugs to the United States, just simply a fisherman. I'm sure the fishermen, because they have a boat and motor and they can go from mainland to islands, that they carry people and merchandise that's being either for people or for people to sell. So among that, there could always be some illegal drugs, but it doesn't make them a drug trafficker, nor is that a death sentence for those fishermen. So anyway, but we get back to this whole question from the Palantir CEO about legalizing war crimes. Essentially, it's already legalized. You don't really need to do anything. You don't need to make any laws. You don't need to amend the Constitution. It's an accepted practice, and the Supreme Court has not stepped in to reaffirm any human rights of civilians due to the U.S. military action. So essentially, it has become a part of our culture, of our thinking, and a lot of people are manipulated by the idea that somewhere in there is a bad guy doing bad things, and so it's better to be safe than sorry. Take them out. We don't need to consider anyone's human rights or any laws, anything like that. So, but I think this is also pretty common for empires, whether it's the British Empire, whether it's the Roman Empire. It's now the U.S. Empire, and they are at the pinnacle of their military capacity and of their economic life. So they're basically untouchable legally, and their military is too strong for other countries to try to carry out justice if the U.S. will not. So basically the U.S. can get away with anything at any time for any reason, and you don't need to make any amendment to the Constitution to basically reaffirm that. It's basically reaffirmed by common practice. I would think that in most Ivy League schools they also accept that. Of course, the military-industrial complex, that's fine. Most of our high-paid generals and the higher-ups in the military, they accept it because they wouldn't get there if they didn't accept it. If you have someone in the military and they think that civilians should be protected, they don't really go up very high in rank in the military. So the only way you get up to the very top is that you accept the killing of civilians as a fact, and you basically have no qualms of conscience about killing civilians. So I think basically, this CEO is just basically stating fact, but this should actually cause people in the United States who are aware of our Constitution and the Bill of Rights and everything else that the founders of our country wrote. This should be deeply disturbing. But I think at this point most people are on somebody's payroll and they don't really have the possibility of speaking out without being punished very severely. And we know what happens to the U.S. military when they speak out about war crimes. They get punished, and in the end, nothing is done because this is accepted in the system as being okay, and no one is questioning it. So anyway, this concludes my video about legalizing war crimes. If you have any comment to make, please do so below. And if you like this video, please hit the like button, share, subscribe. And I look forward to seeing you in a future video. Take care. Bye-bye.